Welcome back to Challenge Washburn YouTube Live. Um, we have something a little bit different this week. We are doing an interview, but our interview is with Mike and Tisha Jones. They are from Colombia, the country of Colombia. They are missionaries there. Been there for 4 years, and they're just unable to come on Thursday night. So we did our interview yesterday, and I'm going to in a minute, I'm going to just play that interview for you guys. It'll look just like it did the last couple of weeks. Boy, they've got some great things to share. God has used their faithfulness these years and the years of preparation to get there in incredible ways, and even more so during this tough time that we're all dealing with. And so I'm just excited for you guys to hear what I heard from them yesterday. Please be praying for the people in Colombia, for the Chami people that they are reaching out toward, and for Mike and Tisha and their family as they live life for the kingdom in another country. God has continued to work so much through them. So I'm going to play the video, and then afterwards, it'll just be over. When I'm done praying, we say goodbye. It'll be done. And then next week, we're going to have something a lot different. And so we'll give you updates on that on texting and on Facebook as the week goes along. Praying that you guys are all doing well during this time. So let me get at it. We will start the interview here, and here we go. All right, I am here with Mike and Tisha Jones. They are currently located in Colombia, not Missouri. They're currently located in Colombia, and they were nice enough the last time they were in the country in December to bring me some of their neighborhood coffee, which didn't take me very long to drink. So Mike and Tisha, thank you. And welcome. Hi there. How are you guys doing?
Well, we're doing really good.
We're really good.
Yep.
So this is our Thursday night. We're recording for Thursday night. We've started to do this since we can't actually see everyone in person, just like you guys are. And we've talked about that when we talked here a couple of weeks ago, you guys are in the same thing as we are as far as being locked down, and it's just strange all over the world, not just here. And so what we've been trying to do is give students opportunity to hear from folks that we love, that are scattered, that we wouldn't normally have an opportunity to talk with because you're so far away. But since everyone is so far away, we get to talk to you. So when were you in college at Washburn University? This is a test. Do you know what years you were here at Washburn at Christian Challenge? Because you were part of
I know that
Challenge and leadership at Challenge and
yeah.
and all of that, but that's been a while.
Yes, it has.
Not saying you're old.
I started my freshman year in 2001. I don't remember when I finished, but I know I was there 2001. I took a break from college for a while and then came back and finished up. So, but we were in Challenge for 3 years.
I was in Challenge from 99, from the fall of 99. I know that sounds really old.
Yeah.
From the fall of 99 until I graduated in spring of 04.
04.
Okay. Wow.
So
I remember you were the first one to show up at our beginning of the year table for Christian Challenge.
I
the
was.
First year we did it.
Yes, that was back when Craig presented himself in a suit and tie for those events.
Did I have a suit?
I think you did. I think you had a jacket. I know you had a tie.
I only do that for weddings now, if I'm doing the wedding. And so, yes, that was weird. Thank you for sharing that with everyone.
Not a problem.
And so,
It's been a while.
So, and you guys were part of Challenge and leading Challenge and influencing students for a long time. And what a joy we had, what experiences we had while you guys were here. So one of the questions I've been asking folks is, what do you know now that you wish you would have known when you're in college? Because you're talking to a bunch of college students.
Right.
That we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. I would say for me, one of the biggest things that I've learned, and since college as well, so many times that there's so many times that we go through a season that we don't understand, or that just feels just completely overwhelming, and that we just cannot possibly see what it is that is the purpose, what it is that God's trying to teach us, where it is he's trying to take us. But looking back on some of those experiences, when you see the whole experience, you see the whole picture, you realize what God was leading you up to. I know, just a quick testimony for us. I went on my first mission trip when I was in Challenge the summer of 2000. And I knew from that point that God was calling me into missions. There was just no doubt in my mind. I just knew it. But then in the years following that, in the couple years following that, I went through some personal tragedy and just some really difficult things. And there were so many times I just cried out, God, why? What is happening here? Now, fast forward several years to when God got us to our field of service on the mission field. And we've now been here we just celebrated 4 years here in the country of Colombia. But looking back at the time, I can see so clearly how God was using those trials and those difficult times and those times where I just cried out and I said, what is happening? And I can see how he was using those exact things for preparing me for exactly where I'm at right now. In the midst of it, I had no clue. In the midst of it, it didn't make sense. It was just a hard time. And so I would recommend that when you pass through those situations, when you pass through those seasons, because you will, just remember that God sees the big picture. We often don't. We just see the exact situation, but God sees the big picture, and he knows how it all goes together for your good.
Thank you. Absolutely. Mike. Hey, Mike.
Hi.
So what do you know now that you wish you would have known
way back then? Honestly, I'm not sure. I mean, that is what she said is, honestly, I'll probably piggyback off that.
That's great.
Sometimes we get overly focused on we failed a test or we failed a semester or something, and this is going to ruin the rest of my life. It won't. You get through it, and you never know what God's going to have you on the other side of that. And I know there was times that in college I thought the whole world was crashing down because of one test or because of something that's happening right now in this moment. But at the end of the day, God's usually got something bigger and better for you if you just push through.
So we are in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
And so question I have, what advice do you have for college students who are weary? The longer it gets, it seems like you get weary during these days of pandemic, social isolation, and the end of the semester rush and stress.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you have?
One of the things that I keep reminding myself, even to remind ourselves, is this didn't catch God by surprise. It caught us by surprise in the way that the world's reacting and stuff. And so this didn't catch God by surprise. And God is still very much in control. And I kind of even go back to what we just said about, sometimes we can get things are going really bad right now, but on the other end of it, God's got something in mind. God's got a plan for this. I've been reading through Genesis again. I just read Joshua, and it said, God, you got what you guys intended for evil, God intended for good. And so there's a lot of evil happening in the world right now. And I can just say some hope is that across the world, globally, missionaries are actually having opportunities to do things that they normally aren't able to do with food relief and with talking to people. Not to mention the fact that a lot of people are noticing people are becoming much more open to the gospel message, open to hearing about God. And so, it may be difficult. We're struggling. There's jobs in there that are struggling. Schools are struggling and stuff. But at the end of the day, if people come to know the Lord, every bit of this is worth it, to see people being more open to have a discussion, to talk about Jesus. And so that for me gives me hope and encouragement for the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything to add, Tisha?
I would just say the most important thing, and this goes for any time that we become weary, is that we just have to seek our rest in Christ. We just have to be depending on God for our rest. And it's interesting because so many people are saying, oh, we have so much extra time now. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be winding down my college semester in the middle of this. I can't. I mean, that's something I've never done. That's something I can't even imagine. But I'm confident that the stresses we have 2 small children and we're doing classes virtually. And I know the stresses that I'm feeling as a mother trying to deal with 1st and 4th grade online. And so I can only imagine what it might be like for college students. I mean, it's one thing to take an online class, but it's a completely different thing for a class that's not supposed to be online to suddenly be given virtually. Yeah. And so I can only imagine the stresses. More than likely, we're also, stressing about elderly grandparents or parents, and there's a whole lot more than there normally is at this point in time in a semester. And so I would say we've got to run to God for our rest, because that's the only place we're going to find the good, solid rest. That's the only place that we can cast our anxieties, and it's going to be received and understood. And just grace. Give yourself grace. Give your family grace. Give, I don't know if you're living with roommates, if you're, with family, give your teachers, give your professors grace. They've never done this either. And so that's one thing I keep, reminding myself of, this is a time that we all, including yourselves, and sometimes that's the hardest place to give the grace, but we need it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So you guys have been there in Columbia 4 years, mm-hmm. as you said, working with the Chami people. So the question I sent you guys, I'm just reading the questions I sent you. Tell us about your work with them, and what is your dream, your vision, and tell a little bit about what you have seen happen already. And then we'll get to what the opportunities you've seen during the pandemic here in a bit.
Okay. So we're working with an unreached people group. It's a rare unreached people group because they're a people group that's right outside of the city. They're about an hour outside the city. Most of indigenous groups that are unreached are a ways out and difficult access to them. But the Chami have been a bit of a unique, is that they're pretty well easily accessed. We've had entrance to the communities basically since the very first few months that we were here. We've been able to get into their communities. One of the things that makes them so difficult to reach is that they are such an easily accessed indigenous community, which means that many, many groups have passed through there. And so there's a lot of confusion. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, many groups, any group you think of, name it, has passed through these communities, and they're very confused. And honestly, a lot of them are kind of turned off to the religious world because they've seen missions done in a very negative way, of just doing it for passing out clothes and food, preaching the gospel one time on a loudspeaker, and then leaving the community and not coming back for a long time, not focusing on relationships. And for indigenous, that's huge. So because of their easy access, it's made them a very difficult people group to reach. They're they don't trust outsiders very quickly, so it takes a lot of time to develop the outsiders, develop trust. In terms of what we've seen that trust grow, which has been amazing. In several communities, we've seen families. It's been great to hear. They've seen other groups come through and they leave and they never come back. But we've had families start to tell us, "You guys sometimes leave, you always come back. We just know we just wait a little bit and you'll come back." And they're referring to times we have to go to meetings or we leave the country to go back to the States for a little while. We come back and we knew you were coming back. It just took time. And so they are developing a confidence with us. We got to see our first believer come to Christ in a new community that we just started working in last year. His name is Leo, and we were supposed to be baptizing him, but then the quarantine hit, and so we're still waiting. And he's waiting patiently is a strong word. He's ready. He wants to get baptized, but he's been an amazing disciple to see him every day asking for Bible verses. What do I read next? What do I read next? What do I read next? And so it's been very fun working with him and many other communities too. We've seen in another community that we have teammates that they're working in, and we work together, but they're working more in this other community. We've together baptized about 4 to 6 people.
Yeah.
I've lost count now. We've done it several times. So we've seen God working in these communities over these last several years, and it's awesome to see what's happening. And what's amazing is what's happening in this other community is it's not us, it's the Chami are reaching other Chami in this community.
Oh, that's great. That's what you want to see.
That's what we want to see. Our first believer in this community is the one that's telling his family, telling his friends, and then they call us. I actually got called up there last year because John Hamas is the first guy that came to Christ. He wanted me to lead his brother to Christ because his brother was ready, but he wanted us to come up there and be a part of it. It's like, yeah, all right, sure. So it's been very, very fun.
Yeah. So we've been here working in this area among the Chami, and the Chami here, they're separated into many different communities or different reservations. And so we are actively working right now in about 6 communities, is kind of where we're spread out. But anyway, so as we said, we've been here about 4 years. We had our first believer come to Christ about 1.5 years ago. Yeah. And so all of the quote unquote progress that we've seen has been within the last 1.5 years. But as Mike said, working among Indigenous, the absolute most important thing is relationships. Yeah. And so it's been hard work building those relationships and just going out to the communities. As he said, we live about an hour away from the closest community. And so we commute out anywhere between about 4 and 6 days a week. We're commuting out to a community and just spending hours just sitting and talking and just building those relationships. We share the gospel more than anything through Bible storying. Which just means that we learn the Bible stories in a way that we can share them orally because our people group for the most part is not literate. So that's the way more than anything that we share the gospel. And so it makes it great because just as we're getting to know them and as topics come up, we're able to throw in a Bible story. So they know that we're not just there to preach at them, we're there to get to know them, but we're also gonna throw in the word anytime that we can. Yeah. As far as you asked, like, what's our vision? Where are we going for? What are we going for? Our ultimate vision is to work ourselves out of a job. Our desire is to plant reproducing churches within the Indigenous communities. And so what that means is that we evangelize, we disciple, we raise up strong leaders who then lead their leaders or lead their believers in their community to form together to form a church. Um, we do not see ourselves as leaders of that church. We want to see it being an indigenous, autonomous church, that they are, solid in their theology and then in their belief system. And then what we want to see is that they begin sending out their own into other communities and planting churches in those other communities. And we will consider ourselves worked out of a job when we have churches planting churches, and they don't need us.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love, there's so many principles in what you guys just talked about there, as far as what does it mean to be ambassadors for Christ? What is evangelizing? What is missions? It's the relationships that you guys are building, and you say it's hard work, but from the evidence and from what we've seen for these years, you've worked hard. It's hard work, and you've done it consistently for these years, and those relationships are showing external fruit and eternal fruit. And that's incredible to see.
Yes.
And so, and we certainly continue to pray for you guys and love you guys as you're doing that. And
we could not be here, and we know 100% we could not be here if it weren't for the prayer support that we're receiving every day. It means so much to us.
Yeah. Okay, so now you got pandemic. You can't go out and you can't visit these places officially as you normally would, but it's brought, as you talked about, this brought all kinds of different opportunities, creative ideas to serve in new ways. So what is that? What have you guys been up to the last few weeks?
So one of the things that happened right away actually was, so Leo, Leonidas, his full name, Leo, I can call him Leo. He came to Christ about a month, we'll say a month.
Right at a month.
Right at a month before the quarantine hit. And so I was just beginning regular meetings with him, reading, and he's a guy that reads the Bible, which is rare for Chami, but he reads really well, and he remembers what he reads. And so he was already kind of started reading, and then we found out about the quarantine, and I was kind of worried because he just is a new believer in his community. And
he's the only believer
in his community. And I was a little worried about how he's going to continue to grow, how he's going to respond to this. And it was amazing to me. The very first time I talked to him, it had been a couple of days in the middle of chaos. I finally was able to call him, and he says, well, no, I was just here reading the Bible to my family. And I was wondering, you could tell me some places I should read. And I was like, yeah, it's like, that's a softball. I can hit that one out of the park. Let's go through this. And so I've been giving him Bibles verses to read and encouraging him. And he's asking me, how can I encourage my community? And so I'm giving him some verses and some stuff to share with that. And so it's been amazing to me how his discipleship hasn't ended just because the quarantine has put us at home. We talk almost honestly every single day. He sends me a message, if anything, just to see how I'm doing. And I do the same thing, and we say we're praying for each other. And we've been able to walk through the Bible. He's asking me questions about what does this mean? What does this mean? And what's exciting to me, and I'm encouraging him, is that you should be sharing this with your family too. What you have in Jesus and your salvation. And he absolutely. And so he's evangelizing in his family and in his community, even though I can't be there. And so it's amazing to me how God worked that and the timing, that God knew this was coming, and he brought Leonidas to him in time to be a source of evangelism in the community, even though I'm not there. And then I'll let Tisha talk about the food distribution in a minute.
But right there, just to see him being he is now a new creature in Christ, right in his family, seeing it right up close.
Yes. And through this food distribution that we're doing, we were able to go into his community. Most of the community showed up. They weren't really supposed to because of the quarantine, but they did anyway. And so we put the food out, and then Leonidas, he said, Mike, I want you to say something to explain why you're doing this. And I didn't think, but like, I'm still kind of new in the community. We've only been there a few months. And for Indigenous, that's a very short time, especially with the leaders. And so for me to be able to talk in front of the community is a big deal. And Leonidas kind of told the governor, Mike's going to say something. And the governor was like, okay, we'll make it short. I was like, I'll make it short. But Leonidas said, Mike's going to tell you all why he does this, why we're doing this. And so I was able to share just a little bit, a tiny bit of the gospel, the reason why we do this, and was able to pray over the community. And so, and shortly after that, Leonidas called me and he said, hey, we want to get together and have some meetings as a community where you can share more about the Bible.
When the quarantine ends.
When the quarantine ends. And so it's just awesome to see how God is using this quarantine and the coronavirus for things like this. But I'll let Tisha share about the food distribution that we're doing.
So another opportunity that we've had that has just kind of blown up more than we were anticipating. Let me step back a little bit and give you a little history. As we said, the majority of the communities of our Indigenous are outside of the city where we live. However, and they're displaced because of the Colombian history with the FARC and the wars and the drug lords and all of that. And so that's why they're spread out into various different reservations throughout. There are, however, a large population living here in the city who are technically refugees. And we have been trying for 4 years to get some kind of contact, some kind of invitation to get to know and to share with these refugees who are here in the city.
We've actually been told no when we've tried to go in. So
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
They said, no, you're not coming in.
Yeah. So we've gotten to know a few families. Our group makes beautiful beaded jewelry. And then they sell them on the streets. And so we've gotten to know a few of the families just simply from me sitting down next to them as they're selling on the street and just talking to them and kind of show them, you can't get rid of me, I'm here to talk. So I've met some families that way, but still through that, we haven't been able to break in and to really get an entrance into the community at all. However, one of the sons of one of the ladies that I visit frequently when she's out selling, he called me, I guess it's been about 2 weeks ago now. And he said, you know, we don't know where else to turn because these are people who pretty much they work day to day, just scraping by enough for food for that day. And with the quarantine, like we are in complete lockdown here in our country. You are only allowed to leave your house on certain days based on your identification number. And that is to go to the grocery store or to the pharmacy. And that is it. And so like they can't be out of their houses to be selling. And even if they were, there's nobody there to be buying. And so he called me and he said, we don't know what to do. We are out of food, the entire community, you know, we have nothing, we have nowhere to turn, we have no way to get anything. Is there any way that you know anybody? Can you help us at all? And so I got in contact immediately with Baptist Global Response. And if you don't know, Baptist Global Response is the disaster relief portion of the Southern Baptist Convention. And so a portion of, you know, Southern Baptist funds goes to Baptist Global Relief, as well as they raise funds in a variety of other ways as well. But this is our disaster relief and world hunger corporation, pretty much. So I got on the phone with Baptist Global Relief and I said, you know, what can we do? And they said, write up a project, we'll make something happen. And so within 2 days of him calling me, we had funds to begin putting together food packages and delivering. So within 2 days, we had funds. In another 2 days, the first delivery went out to their community. And so we provided enough food for a family of 5, and some of their families are significantly larger, but we provided enough food for a family of 5 for a week to 72 families, which turned out to be 309 people. Which is huge because this is an entry into a community that we have been told, no, you can't come in here.
Yeah.
And I just, through my communications with him and organizing everything and figuring everything out, we've been able to share, this is why we're doing this. And, it is God who is providing this. And just really being able to point him to, where our hope is, where our peace is, and being able to share that with him. He has already actually talked with us about, when the quarantine is over, we would love to talk to you guys about, how we can do some community improvement, or like a business model for selling their jewelry type thing, which would, it would be a huge opportunity and something that we've literally been praying for 4 years, and just have not been able to get anywhere with it. And so, it comes back to that, seeing the big picture. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie. As we drive around town here, a symbol here has become hanging a red flag outside of your door if you don't have any food. Mm-hmm. And stuck in our house for the first 4 weeks of quarantine, we were shut up here in our house. We were safe. Now, as we're driving out and about doing these food distributions and interacting more and just moving through the city, as we drive by, we're seeing red flags all over, and it's hard. We work in poverty every day, yeah, but this is a whole new level, mm-hmm. And having the opportunity to help with that is amazing. Yeah, but it's also incredibly hard knowing that we're not reaching everybody. Yeah. And so for us, that's been a struggle for the last couple of weeks of just, it's so big. Yeah. And so we appreciate prayers so much. We're so grateful for Baptist Global Response and for the churches that support and the individuals that support that we are being able to make a huge difference. But just pray that we can continue finding more ways to do that. Yeah. We did last week, we ended up writing up another project to begin serving the reservations. And so last Saturday, we actually ended up, that's what Mike was talking about with Leo, we ended up taking out enough packages for 100 additional families in the reservations. Yeah. And so it's been amazing. It's been amazing to see just how God works through a really difficult situation. But he works it to his good, because people who have not had, any contact, any interaction with the gospel are beginning to get it. I didn't say we're putting in each of the food baskets that we're putting in Bible verses, we're putting in a phone number for them to be able to contact us to pray with us. And things like that. And so it's really exciting in the midst of something that's very, very hard everywhere.
Yeah. Wow. You guys, I tell you what, it is so good to hear what God is doing, how he's using your obedience and your hard work and your prayers and the prayers of those from in this country here. Absolutely. And so what can we all be praying for you and your people coming up?
One huge prayer request that we're working on with this food distribution is we have a community. This the first community we started in. It's the biggest community we work in. The leaders, the governor, and the people in charge in this community are involved in a drug trade. There's some drug lords basically in this community, and they don't want us there. And they finally got it approved among the head council to kick all gringos out. All people outside of the community are not allowed to enter. It hasn't actually stopped people from going in, but those of us that want to be there honestly, and right, we don't go in because of their prohibition of us going in right now. And so one of our huge prayers is that through this food distribution, that this will open their eyes, that we're there to do good, not harm in the community. And this again is part of that lack of trust of outsiders. And most of people still lack trust on outsiders, even though we've been in this community for over 3 years. the leaders still don't trust us very much. And so we're really praying to see this community open its doors to us again. The doors were shut to us in January, and we've been praying for several months now that we might be allowed back into this community. And so we're hearing great feedback from this community. They're so glad we're doing this for them. The prayer is that after the pandemic and some of this passes, that the leaders will allow us to continue to go into the community and share the gospel. As we have several families in there that are asking us to come back to share the Bible with them that we started doing. So it's hard to not be able to go back in right now, but that's a big prayer that the doors would open back up to this community, and this might be a way that God does it.
Mm-hmm. I would add in there, pray for the Chami to hunger. Many of them, like, they're kind of content, you know, and like as we go and as we share, they tell us that, you know, they like hearing and stuff, but they lack that hunger to really desire it.
Yeah.
And so pray that they will hunger for the word. Pray that they will just really hunger to know the truth. I'm not sure that we stated, but they are an animistic, as most indigenous groups are. They're an animistic culture.
Yeah.
And so Mike hinted at the confusion and the mixture that is going on spiritually. They've got a little bit of all of it that, you know, that they kind of are okay with.
Yeah.
But pray for them to hunger for the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Well, let me pray for you guys now.
Thank you.
And maybe this worked out so well. Maybe we can do this from our big challenge place next year when everyone can actually come together, and we'll try this again. Doing that here and hear updates. But let me pray for you right now.
We'd love that.
Thank you for Mike and Tisha and their two little ones that are growing. Thank you for the consistency that they have, their commitment and love for the people that you have called them to. God, thank you that they are willing to, each day, they've been willing to go into these communities and just sit and be friends and care. Hear stories, tell stories, and find ways that they can serve. God, I thank you that you have shown fruit through their effort, through their work, their continued work as ambassadors for you. God, I thank you that even in the midst of this pandemic, that they're able to continue in new ways, and that through this you have opened up new opportunities. We do pray for those to expand and for you to bring eternal fruit into the lives of these people because of it. God, open up this larger community again, that Mike and Tisha would have real access again to the people there that want to hear the stories, want to hear about the Bible. And God, we ask that the Chami would hunger for you, not just for knowledge, but it would be a heart hungering for you, for Jesus, and that you would transform their lives, and that churches would form, and those churches would be planting churches. Thank you for their vision that goes beyond themselves. That is a kingdom vision. God, we ask for safety for them, protection for them, your strength in the midst of this. Thank you for the joy that they bring wherever they go. So grateful for them. Amen. Guys, thank you.
Thank you.
We sure look forward to seeing you here live sometime again. And so we'll talk with you later.
All right.
Take care.
Bye. Take care.